Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will, and today we'll be talking about Miami's OC, Coach Shannon Dawson. All right, Coach Shannon Dawson took over for Josh Gaddis, who was dismissed at the end of the season. And Shannon Dawson is going to be taking over a team, Dolphins, that finished 5-7, averaged 23 points per game. Absolutely horrible. All right, especially in today's college football standards. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't for Bethune-Cookman, Miami will be averaging 19 points per game, which is absolutely abysmal, as well. So I want to talk a little about Coach Dawson, but I want to roll things back a little bit, okay? I want to roll things back. First things foremost, he's been successful with the exception of one school. Everywhere he's gone, okay? He was successful in West Virginia, and he was very successful last season in the 2022 season with the Houston Cougars. All right, now, Houston was a pretty interesting team because he coached under Dana Holgorsen, who is pretty much an air raid-ish type of guy, air raid-ish type of guy. Trying to say that three times, okay? Air raid-ish type of guy in particular, which means that yes, the spread, the passing game is there, but there is a running component to their football team, which is a little different than what Mike Leach ran, over at Texas Tech, and then over at Mississippi State before he passed away in 2022. All right, so going over a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about Shannon Dawson's quarterback for that season. That's a guy by the name of Clayton Tune. Clayton Tune was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, okay? I say that because a lot of you out there are pretty star obsessed, and as far as that goes, this 3-star recruit threw, okay, get this, last season for over 4,000 yards, 4,074 yards to be exact, 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. All right. He also led his team in rushing as well. Now, his offense in particular was absolutely sick. All right. So Shannon Dawson's offense, which is very quarterback friendly, is an offense that last season was very prolific for Houston. And he had also a receiver. We'll get into how many touches the receivers got as well. Also, what Clayton Tune did last year, how it pertains to Tyler Van Dyke this upcoming season as well. All right, so I'll break down the Canes, but I want to break down a little bit about Shannon Dawson. And I've done this before, but I want to remind people again, and I want to, basically, give a fresh perspective on Shannon Dawson. He had a receiver by the name of Tank Dell. All right, Tank Dell is 5'10", weighs 165 pounds. He led the team with 109 catches, almost 1,400 yards receiving, with 17 touchdowns. Okay, that is how good Tank Dell was. Now, Tank Dell is very interesting because he's not your prototypical boundary receiver. As a matter of fact, Tank Dell played both the slot and also the boundary. But what makes him very interesting is the fact that we always talk about putting your guys in space, and Dawson's offense, being all spread out and so on, put Tank Dell in a position where he was constantly in space. So if you look at his videos over on YouTube, I suggest you take it out. Just search his name. It'll pop out. You will see how good this kid was. All right. This kid was put in situations where he was in one-on-one coverage. All right. Both in the slot and also in the boundary. He would score on you in the slot. He would score on you in the boundary as well. He's incredibly fast, is Tank Dell. But I think what really, really makes Tank Dell such a good wide receiver is his footwork. All right. Footwork is a difference between getting jammed at the line of scrimmage and taking off and blowing the top off of your defender. So his footwork, the way he moved, his shiftiness with his speed as well, and made him a very good receiver. Obviously, solid hands as well. Also made him a very good receiver. Hence the reason why he had 17 touchdown receptions. But even though he had all those receptions, he had all those catches with 109 receptions, 14 receivers to be exact, touched the football in the passing game for Shannon Dawson, which means is the Canes, you will see a bit of a rotation from the wide receiver position on a constant basis. Again, air raid-ish. The running component was a big factor as well for his offense, okay? His offense almost rushed for 2,000 yards in the season, as well as his team rushed for 1,846 yards, averaging over 4.6 yards per carry. So again, Houston also ran the ball very well. We'll get into how that pertains to the Canes in a couple of minutes or so, but I want to talk about that. The passing game. Let's go over the offense altogether. all right? Because I'm going to go over what I think is going to happen this year for the Canes. Let's go over the offense altogether. The offense averaged 314 yards passing per game, all right? 61 touchdowns, 467 points Houston put on the board on offense, and they averaged 36 points per game, right? 36 points, again, per game. Miami, scratch Bethune now, average 19, right? 19, 23 if we add Bethune. There was a 13-point differential, a 2-touchdown differential between Houston and the Miami Hurricanes. Miami needs an offensive coordinator with this kind of mind, a guy that puts his guys in space as well. So the running game was really solid for Shannon Dawson. The passing game was electric for Shannon Dawson as well. Points were put up on the board, and they won 8 games last season. So that's where Miami needs to be. Now, what does it pertain? We all know that last year, with all that went on as well, in the, whether Josh Gaddis talked or not, Miami's offense was bad. Miami's offense was horrible. The players did not look in sync. What's good about Shannon Dawson coming in, and what Josh Gaddis didn't seem to understand, is that these players, this personnel that he had inherited, Josh Gaddis did inherit, were used to an air raid type of system. All right. Rhett Lashlee had been the OC at the University of Miami for 2 seasons, and they had a certain structure, and they were used to basically playing fast and playing in space, the total opposite of what Gaddis brought to the table. It didn't help either that it seemed like Gaddis didn't communicate with his quarterback as well. We'll get into why that happened in a couple of minutes as well, or so. But what's really going to be interesting is the fact that that TVD, Tyler Van Dyke, in my opinion, is going to ball this season. He is going to put up monster numbers under this offense. And I want to say something to you people, some of you out there who believe that he's just a one-read guy. Okay, one read, he's done. Tyler Van Dyke was the #1 quarterback in Connecticut. As a matter of fact, he was the #1 player coming out of the state of Connecticut during his recruiting cycle as well. There were games early on where Tyler Van Dyke did struggle, where you can make that case, i.e. the North Carolina game, and I'll even say the Florida State game that Miami should have won that football game. Miami should have won both those football games as well. All right, a call here or there, a tip pass here or there made the difference, but Miami should have won both those football games. Both those games, TVD struggled in the first quarter, but as the game progressed, second, third, fourth quarter, TVD got better. Why? Because if one guy was covered, if the first read was gone, he would check down to his tailback, or he would find somebody else, maybe the tight end, maybe Will Mallory, as a security blanket. He would find the open guy as well. And again, the system that Lashlee had created put guys in space, and that's exactly what Dawson is also going to do with TVD. So TVD should have a monster year, or at least a very solid year, to what he had back in 2021 when Rhett Lashlee was calling the shots at the offensive coordinatorship. Right. So it's a whole new ball game for TVD. I'll get into also as well. Shannon Dawson is a quarterback's coach, the same way Rhett Lashlee was a quarterback's coach as well. That makes a huge difference, as Josh Gaddis was the wide receiver coach, not the quarterback's coach, and yet he was the offensive coordinator. I like it better when the OC is the quarterback coach. All right. Why? Because the quarterback and the OC have got to be in sync. There has to be a relationship between the two, a synergy between the two. There has to be, because he's the one who's executing. He's the field general. He's the one executing the plays for the offensive coordinator. And the fact that I heard, or that's been talked about, that Gaddis and Van Dyke, there wasn't much communication on many occasions, that was a problem. So the fact that Dawson is the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach, and Kevin Beard is the one with the wide receivers, we'll get into that in a minute, is going to make a huge difference in the way the offense plays this year, comparable to what they had last year. Another guy that I think should have a very good season is Xavier Restrepo. For starters, that's Tyler Van Dyke's favorite target. They're roommates. They're best friends. Last year before Restrepo got hurt, that was his #1 target. So if Restrepo can stay healthy, you're going to see Restrepo have a monster year. Maybe not the 17 touchdowns that were put up by Dell under Houston, because there's a bit more, I think, a bit more diversity at the receiver department, more so than Houston. That's my opinion, and tight ends as well. than there was at Houston. You will see Xavier Restrepo get a lot of touches. Xavier Restrepo is a very good receiver, mostly known for playing the slot, but he could also play the boundary. He did play the boundary on a couple of occasions under Rhett Lashley's offense. Don't be surprised if he gets moved around in motion to get space, to get space to be able to beat his defenders. So don't be surprised if he's in the boundary in one-on-one situations on several occasions because of the format of how much Dawson's offense is going to spread defenses out. So I'm expecting a huge year, a very good year by Tyler Van Dyke, a very good year by Xavier Restrepo. But if you look at it, it wasn't just one guy that touched the ball all the time. There was a multitude of receivers that touched the football at Houston when Dawson was coordinator, which is what Holgorsen has done for years at West Virginia, which is something that he picked up from Mike Leach as well. So what you're going to see is guys like Brashard Smith, who hasn't been talked about much, but if you guys remember, he was a burner. You could line him up as a running back, if you want to scare defenses, and it could be, even though third and short, it could be a passing situation, or you could also put him in the slot as well. Colby Young, Jacoby George, all right? Jacoby George is a very good receiver, very underutilized last year, was suspended, but very underutilized last year as well. He should have a good season. Colby Young, Ray Joseph, the other Washington brother as well. Maybe Frank Ladson. We'll see how he plays out as well. So I'm expecting the wide receivers to really feast off of this offense because they will be put in positions in space that will make them very successful. Now, as the season goes along, remember, over 1,800 yards rushing, 4.6 per carry, Houston's running game. As the season goes along, the offensive line gels more and more. Remember, although they're talented, they haven't really played together. All right, you have two studs that are going to get some run this year in Pancake Honcho and Mauigoa and Francis Mauigoa. All right, as well, two 5-star recruits that are going to get some run this year, probably even start this year at offensive line with Zion Nelson, with Matt Lee, with Javion Cohen as well. So you're going to see, pretty much Miami's offense as the season goes along. They're probably going to get better in pass protection and also in run blocking as well. And Miami has a plethora of running backs with a lot of talent. Henry Parrish should probably get the most run, but you got AJ Allen, all right, the transfer guy. All right, you have, of course, Mark Fletcher. The one I really want to see ball out is Don Chaney Jr. Even though he's been hit with the injury bug, when Chaney's healthy, he's a beast. He's one of the best all-around backs Miami has. He's a guy that with speed and also could grind it out and go smash. He could also catch the ball out in the backfield. He could also block as well. So I'm expecting good things from Don Chaney Jr. if he stays healthy. I'm dying to see Trevante Citizen hit that field as well. I want to see Mark Fletcher, who to me reminds me of a young Willis McGahee. Chris Johnson as well, the burner. I want to see, how this offense progresses as the season goes along. And I want to see how good the running game gets, as the season goes along, especially since, they'll be playing in Boston, towards the end of the season, a very cold temperature. If the running game, everybody's predicting Miami's going to have some trouble there because, again, South Florida kids in freezing weather. If Miami could have a solid running game, that may not be much of an issue because the linemen could do their jobs and the running game could pretty much dictate the game for the Canes, and the passing game could just complement the running game as the game goes along. I do expect Miami to beat Boston College, even though some people say they won't. I do expect Miami to beat Boston College. All right, so that's pretty much what I want to say as far as Shannon Dawson's offense goes. I predict Miami will score between 31 to 34 points per game. I believe they will light up the likes of Temple and the likes of Miami, Ohio, the likes of Georgia. They will light up those teams. All right, I do feel strongly Miami will put up a lot of their points against those teams, and then the season will balance itself and play out, and you will have a 31 to 34 average per game. Miami's offense will be improved. Miami averaged 34 points a game before Josh Gaddis when Rhett Lashley was there. I don't see why they can't do it with Shannon Dawson. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. You have some experience at the wide receiver position. You have guys that done it before. The offensive line, which had major turnover, is going to be much better this year. And the running game, so as far as running backs goes, has a lot of depth as well. So I'm expecting them to do big things as well. Okay, not promising you guys that I'm going to say, oh, they're going to win 10 games and go into like a New Year's Six Bowl. I'm not saying that. Okay, I don't know. I'm not predicting anything this year as far as records go. As far as records go, I do think 8 wins, is good, but I'm not going to say, I'm not going to put it writing set in stone. All right. I think 8 wins is an accomplishment comparable to 5 wins last season. All right. So again, I do think Shannon Dawson could get it done. I like the fact that he's working with TVD. I like the fact that TVD also has ability to change plays, within the huddle as well. He's giving him some autonomy, which I think is important for a quarterback as well, especially when he wants to go to the next level, to be able to manage a football team all around also in the NFL. I do like the fact that Kevin Beard, who also puts on cleats with his receivers, is wide receivers coach. He's basically working with these guys running routes as well. So I do think the coaching staff this season, from what I've heard, seems to be more in sync than last year's group. That there seemed to be a bit of turmoil, hence the reason why we had some turnover amongst the coaching staff. I will say this. I saw a major difference in demeanor with this spring game, with Guidry, with Dawson, and the rest of the coaching staff and players, comparable to last season when it was, Josh Gaddis, Kevin Steele, and Charlie Strong as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 305 Sports Now. Once again, I am Will. Stay safe. God bless you soon. Go Canes. Bye-bye.